Michael Kelly is our guest today. He's the Chief Operating Officer of College Football Playoffs. And Michael has a deep, deep history in sports on the college side, Super Bowl host committee, on the conference side, and then this huge, huge platform that you're on now. Like I said, Michael, we got a great picture of you that all the viewers will see in your blue suit. I'm sure it was like Larry Culpepper right there trying to get in the picture with you.
That was before Larry was born. He came out of the creative minds of Dr. Pepper a few months after that picture was taken.
Where'd they ever find that guy? He's awesome.
Oh, he's great. They've really done a great job bringing that character to life. They had a casting call. Their agency was able to think of the character in their minds and then how it could kind of go in a lot of different directions and did a casting call. And this gentleman, came out the winner. It had various different experiences with commercials and I think some mini series and things of that nature. And this just seemed to really suit his personality, and he's taken that character to a huge level over 2 seasons. So this past year at the championship weekend in Arizona, he was undoubtedly one of the more popular people in town. Every party or event that he went to, he was in high demand for various pictures with everybody.
Does he come out of character, or he just stays in character the whole time?
I've only seen him in character, so every time he's looking like Larry, he's definitely in character and does it really well.
Oh man, did they hit they hit a home run on that casting with that guy?
It did. He's done a great job with it, and you never seem to please everybody. It's hard to ever please everybody, but I've gotten so much positive feedback about what Dr. Pepper has done with them and that whole campaign. So I hope it continues for a while, and I would expect that it will.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Well, so let's step back a little bit because I can talk about Larry Culpepper all day. Actually, I think the guy's a riot. I want him to show up at one of my birthday party. I think.
Hey, I'm just call the good folks up in Plano for Dr. Pepper. They might be able to make it happen.
Yeah. What is So let's talk about how you started in the business, where you're from, kind of right out of college. What was the process you took to really decide, hey, this is something I want to do?
Well, sure. Well, I grew up in the D.C. area and went to St. John's High School. I was a good student and a reasonably good basketball player for a very good program in the D.C. area, and I enjoyed that very much. And through that, I wasn't really thinking about sports careers then. I was thinking about maybe becoming a lawyer. I went to Wake Forest. I didn't play at that level, but stayed involved a little bit with the athletic department. I volunteered in the athletic development office a little bit and studied a lot. And then by the time I got to the end of my undergraduate career, I started looking at different jobs, and I still had such a passion and love for sports, and just decided that I had to learn more about how to get jobs in that. And at that time, back 20 years ago, and it was 1992, there weren't the proliferation of sports management programs and a lot of ways to get into the industry there seems to maybe be an overload of such now. So there was, I remember 3 or 4 or 5 recommended programs that I could look at for graduate school that could probably help me try to get the foot in the door. And I ultimately selected St. Thomas University down in Miami because I felt my academic background was really strong, but I had very minimal experience. And at the time, South Florida was in a boom as it relates to sports, with the Florida Marlins starting up, and not too far after that, the Panthers, and obviously the Dolphins and the Canes and everything else. So and not to mention, I would have, as a 23-year-old, I was looking forward to maybe some nice weather to enjoy. So ultimately, on January 1st of 1993, I put everything I owned in my Honda Accord that I had at the time and drove from D.C. down to Miami. And even before I moved into an apartment with someone that was kind enough to let me in for a while, I went straight to what was then Joe Robbie Stadium, because the Marlins were getting ready to have their first year, and I asked if there was any jobs, and they had a kind of a telemarketing ticket sales job that was in essence a closet at the stadium, and I started doing it, and it started a 20-year train that has got us to where we are today. So it was a lot of fun to get started, and it led to a lot of different jobs I'm sure we'll talk about over the course of this conversation.
So was ticket sales one of your first jobs that you had to do?
It was my very first one. So for the first 2 or 3 months during my time in South Florida, the other good thing about St. Thomas was that all the classwork was in the evening, so all the students are, and I believe still are, able to work and volunteer and intern to get practical experience. And so I did that for a couple of months, got to meet people within the organization, and they actually started seeking and searching for interns for the actual school year, I mean, for the actual baseball season. And so I actually switched it, even though I got paid a little bit more to do the ticket sales and the hourly wages and that sort of thing, and ended up taking a internship in communications and marketing for the Marlins for that Argo year, and that was just an awesome experience to be within an Argo franchise with all the excitement that was there at the time, and learning from a lot of young professionals that were running that organization, but also looking at that and having it and watching them do that from scratch. And so, in some ways, coming full circle 20 years later, as the college football playoff was getting started, it was kind of fun to say, heck, I did kind of remember back when people were starting things for the first time, with the Marlins and things that it kind of picked up on. So it's been kind of neat for me to go this full 20-year cycle to come to where I am now on this project.
It's just so interesting because I always talk about, especially when you're working for a team, you gotta be able to start and learn how to sell tickets. It seems like
Yeah, no question. No question. Being able to sell anything, and that was important going on. So it was ticket sales, and then I got a little experience in ticket operations as well, and then to kind of touch the external side of things with game notes, PR, nuts and bolts, sports information type stuff, and then also kind of touching the different promotions and executing promotions on the field and everything that was happening with that. So for me, it was kind of 20-hour days. Even at that young age, I was doing, like I said, all those things I said by day. Then you were kind of taking care of the national anthem singer and executing promotions on the field during the game. 2 or 3 nights a week, I'd go to class for graduate school and then kind of rush back to the stadium when that was over. And doing that for 81 home dates, it was just so exciting, and I loved every second of it.
Did you?
So much to the point I remember having a paper due after I came back from in early August of 1993. I had a paper due at night, but it was after a game. Then I went and remember writing the paper, and I fell asleep around 2:00 in the morning. And I overslept because I was supposed to be taking my flight at about 6 a.m. to fly to my wedding, actually, in North Carolina. And I missed it. I fell asleep, and my friend called and said, hey, aren't you supposed to be at my house so we can go to the airport? And I fortunately, I think it was Delta, took great care of me and got me on the next flight out of there. So it was a good thing. But yeah, it was an exhausting but exhilarating experience to start off with. And I'll never forget it, and can't appreciate those people enough to give me a chance.
She would never have let you down if you.
I was so impressed with how calm she was when I called her.
Well, that's a good indication, buddy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So did you feel like, hey, this, I know I could carve a career out of this, and let me see where this takes me?
Well, that's what gave me the love for it, and I knew that. But what it also showed me was just how hard you had to work and how many different kinds of jobs there were. And I certainly wasn't sure which one I wanted to necessarily run into. But again, you're still an intern. You're at the grassroots level, and you had to keep making progressions. And my next job after that is in my first full-time job. Well, I switched to another internship at what was then the CarQuest Bowl. Played in the same building, but kind of housed up in the Fort Lauderdale area, and I just kind of switched, kind of a lateral move since it was internship to internship. But I always thought I might have a little bit more desire to be in the college sports ranks, and to kind of make that switch over, I thought that was logical. And I got to learn what went into a bowl game and all the different events and activities they run throughout the year, and also when it came to game time, working with college teams on their operations and things of that nature were exciting to me, and it gave me a chance to make some more contacts in the college level. And then it just so happened, by being an intern there in the right place at the right time, someone moved on, and they gave me a chance then to kind of have that first full-time entry level job when I was at the CarQuest Bowl. So that's really what kind of launched it and kind of helped a lot of great opportunities from there.
Did you have any mentors at that point in your career? Just being fresh out of it.
Say it again, Rob. What did you say?
Did you have any? Were there any mentors that you really looked up to with the Marlins and with the CarQuest Bowl that you latched onto, guys that would give you advice and open up doors for you?
Oh, I've had so many throughout my entire career, but even in those early days, gentleman Chuck Poole was kind of the PR director there, and he's now the SID down at Rice. So I've been able to keep in touch with him, over the course of time. So he kind of gave me a chance. A gentleman by the name of Mark Geddes that helped me a lot then, and he went on to kind of start different companies in the digital landscape, and so he's always been a great friend and mentor. And ironically, the vice president that I reported up through is a gentleman by the name of Dean Jordan, and he now works for Wasserman Media Group. He's been a president of a couple of NHL squads, and he and I have kept in touch, and he even has gone on to, eventually became a consultant for the ACC and even for us at the CFP here for some television rights. And so being able to work with him full circle has been a real, real pleasure. So those are some mentors back in those early days. And again, many, many more on the various stops along the way since then.
Right. So what did you do? Where did you make the jump after the CarQuest Bowl?
From there, it was an awesome chance that I had a chance to go back to my alma mater. I went to Wake Forest as a director of athletic operations and facilities, and that gave me a chance to, it was a very hard job, probably still amongst the most labor-intensive jobs I've ever had, because you never get a day off in that position. That's why I love the operations folks on various athletic campuses. You're serving somewhere between 10 and 25 sports probably in some cases, and helping their coaches, helping their programs, setting up practice sites, running the games, running their various postseason tournaments. It's just a awesome job to learn the whole business, and you kind of become a heartbeat of the athletic department because everyone works through you, and it's really exciting to do that. But that was also the time, a chance to go back to alma mater. It was a time when Tim Duncan was there, and the whole program was really at a high point, and it was just a really exciting couple years for me. And again, it really, kind of the hard work and what I learned from coaches and being on an athletic campus, it gave me a chance for both conference and NCAA level events when we were hosting them to kind of run them, and that's where I really got the itch and to run major events, and then also to and just realized I felt I was pretty good at it, and it just was something I really enjoyed.
Is that when you went down to the Super Bowl host committee?
Well, after Wake Forest for a few years, and it was really the NCAA. We were hosting the NCAA first and second rounds in '97. I think at the time I was the youngest tournament manager that they'd ever had, that the NCAA had ever had. There have been some younger since, but Dean Smith, I remember actually breaking the all-time victories record at the time in that tournament. It was just a really exciting time to be there. And it's funny, people wonder how you get jobs, and certainly my connections and network have helped as time has gone by. But in the next case, there was an ad in the NCAA News for the executive director of the 1999 Final Four in St. Petersburg, and I had never been to the Tampa St. Pete area ever in my life. Yeah. But I thought, hey, just by the experiences I've had, maybe I'd get a chance, or at least get an interview and learn some more things. And so I applied, and lo and behold, I got that opportunity. And really, it was I think the big part of it was that I had some experience, but it was only a 1-year job, in essence, 14 months.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't willing to take that risk. And for I guess it was a little risky to leave my alma mater in a job that I liked a great deal. But the advice I got from people and some of my mentors there at Wake Forest kind of said, you know what, you would kick yourself if you pass this opportunity. You just don't know where it could lead. And I'm grateful for the advice, but in particular, Ron Willman, who's still the athletic director there, and Dave Odom, who was the basketball coach at the time, and Jim Caldwell was the football coach at the time at Wake Forest, and all three of them were very encouraging for me to take that opportunity, and gave me kind of the extra boost of confidence to give it a shot. So I did that, went down with again, knowing it was still involved in college, and helped progress my career. And It did, because actually the University of South Florida was the host institution of that effort, and I was probably about ready to go take a job at the University of South Florida after the Final Four. And then lo and behold, the Super Bowl was in the Tampa market about 2 years after that game was over. And even though it was getting me off a college track, I just when some of the civic leaders that were on that board said, "Hey, why don't you? Would you be interested in this?" And again, it was just one of those things I just would never, pass up, and just knew it was another great opportunity not only to learn and to network, but to be a part of the largest sporting event on American soil, and to just meet and learn things, how the NFL does things, and living in an area that I really liked at the time. So kind of put the college career on hold and got involved in the NFL system for a little bit. So the 2001 Super Bowl in Tampa featured the Ravens and the Giants, and the games that went into that was a lot of fun. We put on a lot of huge events surrounding it for the general public. We actually moved Gasparilla, which is a huge festival in Tampa. Takes place normally in February, and moved it to Super Bowl weekend. So it was an amazing scene. Certainly huge crowds that a lot of people enjoy, and kind of a Super Bowl that people won't forget for that reason. And then obviously the game itself went off very well, and it was just a good experience for Tampa, and good for me in that regard. And then after that was over, I did end up getting a job opportunity at the University of South Florida. Paul Griffin was the athletic director at the time, and kind of started the process and was my boss during the Final Four time frame. And then kind of got me an opportunity there. And when he ended up moving on from the university, Leroy Selman took over the reins there, and had me kind of boosted to kind of his right hand for all things external. So everything from fundraising, development, ticket sales, marketing, and sports information was all kind of in my realm of things at a time when we were just building up football and ultimately transitioning to D1 football. So it was a great and exciting time to, again, seems somewhat of a theme now that I'm talking to you about it, but kind of start a program from scratch, so to speak. And so that was a lot of fun in that regard. But to your Super Bowl theme there, what happened from there is after I was there for about 2 years, or almost 2 years, the Jacksonville community had already had a director for their Super Bowl, and he decided to run for mayor, and so the civic leaders there decided to see if I was interested in there, and made a very compelling offer. And next thing I knew, we were up in Jacksonville trying to run our second Super Bowl. So that was a fun thing to do as well.
Which one? So what was your big difference, or did you have like that aha moment when you're sitting there, coming from the college side of it? Now you're working with the NFL, big corporation. Was there just a big learning curve for you, or you felt like the blocking and tackling was the same, just the numbers, the zeros were a little bit different?
Looking back now, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I took a very humble and hardworking approach to it, and didn't act like I knew it all, because I knew I didn't. But at the same token, I did find that it was still doing the basics of what I had learned through all my jobs. But yes, to your point, then it just became that many more layers on the onion, so to speak. It just kind of kept growing. So it was just kind of extending it, getting more people involved, and it kind of just taught me how to manage major projects and get more people involved.
Right.
So I never felt overwhelmed. I was probably too naive to feel that way, but I was just very fortunate that people were kind to me and willing to give me a chance. And I think just as long as I was working hard and trying to be conscientious, people respected that, and it continued to serve me well.
Yeah, that's a good lesson. I know a lot of guys, when you go in and you try to take over, and sometimes it's better just to keep your mouth closed and your ears open, and then not giving your opinion too early.
You're exactly right. I was 31 years old, going into a chance to be a lead, local executive for the biggest show in our country. So what I'm there to learn from the NFL people. They're the best at what they do, and it was just great to kind of be their local arms and eyes and ears, and help them execute as best we could.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing. So you crisscross to Florida. You go over to Jacksonville, and after that one with was that the Super Bowl with the cruise ship?
it absolutely was.
Yeah.
Jacksonville has the fewest amount of hotel rooms in their marketplace, so you needed to fulfill the bid obligations. And even though I didn't put the bid together there, I certainly had an obligation to and responsibility to execute it. And so we had to bring in about 8,000 rooms worth of sleeping rooms by cruise ships into the St. Johns River, and there wasn't a whole lot that had been done on that before I got there. So I got a crash course on the cruise ship industry, and basically we basically had to figure out a way to finance and bring in ultimately 6 or 7 cruise ships, get them parked, get them docked. 9/11 had happened between the time the bid had awarded and when that came about, so you had to build all the infrastructure and security infrastructure at the ports and the different places you could dock the ships, and then ultimately become a hotel operator because the cruise ships were basically we had to buy them out, bring them in, and in essence they still ran it really well with all their services on board, but we basically kind of had to resell it instead of a full cruise. You're basically selling them like we normally would a hotel at X number of rooms per night, and that's dollars per night and that sort of thing. So it was a huge and major undertaking. It was for a small market, no question the cruise ship stuff was a challenge, but for some of the ships it offered a very unique and awesome opportunity to be right close to the stadium. Some cases they were further out.
Yeah.
But long story short, it worked. It wasn't ideal by any means. It was a challenge, and certainly not something that was for everybody. But to make it work and to make it happen, it was still very it was still very rewarding to go through it. And I think the difference of it, once again, it was the people of Jacksonville. The city was committed to it. Everyone pitched in. The ports authorities made it happen. The law enforcement did. And of all the places I worked, probably, and they've all been pretty darn good, the people there and the volunteerism and the excitement they had for that event was great. I really don't know if I've ever felt a community be as proud as I think they were, and it showed, and at least made it happen. So that was it was a challenge, huge challenge, but a very rewarding experience to go through that Super Bowl in Jacksonville.
I look at Jacksonville. When I was working with the NFL, I did a lot of events there, and to me, Jacksonville always kind of always seemed like they don't get the respect they deserve, and they're still to me, being a Northeast guy, they still seem like a very, very southern city. You know,
No, there's no question. The state of Florida is inverted in that case. You've got a lot more Northerners in the South, and you have a lot more Southerners in the North. But it was they still drank sweet tea, and it was a very nice community, and I enjoyed it.
yeah. Well, I look at I say that because Miami and Orlando and Tampa don't seem like it's there's more Northerners there, but Jacksonville was always people still had Southern accents there, and I always appreciated that. So
Yeah, they sure did. Great place
yeah,
to live, and it's a great. It really is a wonderful community.
so I wonder, were you part of the I mean, was the cruise ship? And I don't want to, I don't mean to go back to that, but I just thought it was like that. That is such a brilliant, solution. And was that already solved before you got there?
Yeah, that was a big cornerstone and a necessity of the bid that I wasn't a part of the formation of it. I came more on the execution side, but I think the credit of it mostly goes to Wayne Weaver, who was the owner of the club at the time, and to
Mhm.
the two co-chairs that we had, Peter Rummel and Tom Petway, were really the brain trust behind it and getting that together. So they had a great idea. They knew that was the only way they could make it happen, and at the end of the day, they galvanized the community to make it happen. The credit goes to those three for using their connections and their resources and their talents to pull it off. And it really was cool. I mean, we were literally the main showcase bridge in downtown Jacksonville was the Main Street Bridge, and normally a pretty major thoroughfare for vehicular traffic. We closed it down and basically made about a 2-mile riverfront festival that had both the North Bank and the South Bank, and people would just actually use the Main Street Bridge as a pedestrian thoroughfare for the masses that were downtown. And we put stages all over the place on the banks, and it just really came alive in a really powerful way. and the three bridges that kind of run through downtown Jacksonville were all, we did huge firework displays at the end of the concerts each night and everything, and it just came off really well.
There's something to be said about those mid to small size markets with the Super Bowl. It's so much of a different feel than when you go to New York or I've been to about 7 or 8 of them working, and New Orleans is probably my favorite, but I would assume Jacksonville had that same type of feeling.
Yeah, they're all great in their own right. The NFL makes everything successful, but I love when the events move to different cities. You have to adjust the plan. You get to get people excited about it, and the community gets so proud and gets a chance to showcase the best of their community. So that's what I love about all these different events I've had a chance to work on so far.
Awesome. So then after Jacksonville, is that when you moseyed up to the ACC?
Nope. I went for the trifecta and had a chance to kind of return back to South Florida and had a chance to run one more Super Bowl committee. So I was the only person that's run 3 different ones in 3 different cities. So I moved down to South Florida and was the Super Bowl president for the 2007 Super Bowl when Coach Dungy and Peyton Manning won for the Colts against the Bears down there, and the only Super Bowl that's ever rained. So we kept saying it would never rain in South Florida, and lo and behold, we had a rainy day. But it was all a part of the contract with Prince to make sure Purple Rain was an authentic setting at halftime.
I remember that. Yeah,
that's right. It was perfect for that. It was perfect.
Hey, you're such a great operations guy. How did you get it to rain?
It was good fun. Unfortunately, it was really unfortunate that it rained because that made a lot of people uncomfortable. But it was a great game, and the days leading into it, it was South Florida got to showcase it all. We had a great setup down in South Beach, all along Ocean Drive and along Loomis Park and on the beachfront itself. So people had a great time, and ultimately, the game day, came off fine, but just it's still a little bit of a footnote to be the only Super Bowl out of 50 that had full rainy weather during the game. So
it's all right, man. That's unbelievable. You get the trifecta. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was fun. So a chance to do all 3 of those in a Final Four, and then the various stops along the way. 2 college campuses by that point, one on the internal side, one on the external side, 3 Super Bowl host committees, 1 Final Four. So again, by this point, I just felt very fortunate and blessed to have so many different experiences and to have the beauty of event management. To me, at least, mega event management is you get to learn how so many people operate, learn how to help them, and kind of become proficient in many things as opposed to just an expert in one.
Right. Well. And how old were you? I mean, you were still in your early 30s by this time?
I was 36 when that last one went off. So so I left at that point. And then to your point, then that summer is when I moved to Greensboro and went to the ACC office. I was grateful. All those jobs I spoke of, with the exception of the 2 universities, were great experiences, but again, they would always have a definitive end date, whether it's 1 to 2 to 3 years of ramp up time and execution, and then those host committees tend to disintegrate since you don't have an event like right after it. So to find a chance by that point, I felt, all right, been nomadic long enough and had young children that were, deserved a chance to have a more stabilized home and that sort of thing. And when the opportunity came with Commissioner Swafford and the ACC, it was a perfect fit for us at the time. I started off primarily just working with him on the football side was my main reasons for coming. They were just starting up a conference championship game, and they were, had never really had someone that was totally focused just on the sport of football as a whole, so they had other responsibilities as well. So at first he gave me that opportunity to kind of grow this football championship game and to run the football office, which was a great opportunity, and loved that. And as the years went by, as we worked together, once the television negotiation time came up, he was kind enough to get me involved in that and gave me a chance to, and then ultimately have all the broadcasting aspects under my supervision, as well as all the communications and marketing aspects of it for a while as well. So by the time I left, it was the broadcasting, communications, and football side of the conference office that I was able to work with and supervise. And so it was a great ability to grow over the course of that 6.5 years. And I'm very grateful for my time there. And probably the most relevant thing to what's kind of occurred now is that 2 times during that stretch, Commissioner Swafford was the chairman of the BCS. And when at that time, when it would rotate, the commissioners, some of their staff would get involved to help basically, help support him as he, kind of took on that extra work himself during that year with the different conferences and managing the games and that sort of thing. And so that gave me a chance to meet the other commissioners, the various bowl games that were involved in the BCS, and it kind of just helped. And then as the system ended up changing over the course of 6.5 years, once they decided they were going to form the college football playoff, there was a national search, and I was aware of the opportunity of their chief operating officer and applied for it and got it. But I know that the combination of the Super Bowls, the Final Four, and then certainly working in a conference office and at a couple of different institutions seemed to give the commissioners a comfort level of the right ingredients of what they were looking for this, to run the event side of this college football playoff. So, and it obviously I should have always been saying, the chance that since Bill Hancock was already on board with the BCS administration side to kind of run it day to day, that certainly helps too, that I've known Bill for a long time. And so a combination of getting familiar with the different conference offices and Bill, when this new opportunity and this new enterprise came about, was how I landed where I am today.
All the things that you learned along the way is just kind of got you to where, you're sitting there very, in a spot where nothing surprises you anymore, or is it still the event business is the event business?
Oh, it's the event business. There's something new and something that pops up every year, and you learn how, in this job, you learn how team needs grow and how they change. And with this job, it's been so exciting because you truly are, as I've talked about a couple times during the conversation, to learn and have the ability to help create something from scratch has been, remarkable. We didn't even have an office, so Bill and I went and found an office, and you have to build the staff from scratch. So I wrote up the job descriptions, and we developed the staff. We hired a staff. We developed the RFPs to determine which bowls we would work with. We determined the RFPs to figure out where we would host our championship games. And it's a lot of work from scratch. We didn't have a logo, develop a logo. Didn't have a trophy, develop a trophy, market the trophy, work with ESPN to get sponsors on board, and again, grow the whole enterprise that's kind of come to life over the past 2.5 years. So it's been, from scratch to have literally nothing, but know that what you've had at all these different places has been fun. But again, when you think about, going to an inaugural year franchise with the Florida Marlins, to going to, in essence, 4 different startup companies with a Final Four organization and 3 different Super Bowl committees, since you kind of started that from scratch, and then they kind of disintegrated, and then a chance to, in essence, help bring the ACC football championship kind of up from scratch, and then now transition to the CFP and have a chance to do the same thing. So it's been you have to pinch yourself every now and then on the opportunities I've given in my 20-year career so far, and just be very grateful and just realize that I'm in a very fortunate place and very appreciative of the chance to do this every year.
Well, I feel like good things happen to good people, Michael, and it's not like that just happened all by mistake for you.
Well, people have given me a chance along the way. I've not taken that for granted. I've tried to work very hard. As I said before, I think the whole key to pretty much success in anything is the work ethic and being conscientious. I just can't say it enough. That's really what it comes down to me. And then people giving you a chance to do it, and to to think all the way back to the Marlins and to the people at the bowl game, and then you think of Ron Wellman and Dave Odom and Jim Caldwell and Bill Hancock and Jim Steig and Frank Zapovitz, the NFL, Paul Griffin, Leroy Selman, the great people in Jacksonville that I had a chance to work with, all the friends I have in South Florida, Commissioner Swafford, all the ADs of the ACC, and now to, again, work with all the commissioners and Bill Hancock. I mean, all the people that have helped me have been, it's been amazing. People that I would just even hope to meet when I was kind of growing up and see, to have a chance to work for them and with them has been just an awesome experience.
Relationships matter so much in this business and any business, though, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, without question. I mean, especially with all these things that have been somewhat new endeavors. Again, without having, having so many different contacts and different disciplines and areas, if you don't know the answer inherently, you got to call out to people and say, hey, what kind of advice would you give me for this, or what do you think I should do? And again, you never take any one person's thoughts all the time, but just to be able to call on different things on how to maybe go about things really is helpful. So that advice I've gotten along the years to not be afraid to reach out to people and get advice has been a huge help to me as well.
Well, you've always been very nice to me, so I've always appreciated that, Michael. You've given me a chance to come in and talk to you before and today, and so I appreciate that. And I'm just rooting for you. I know someday you can be commissioner of the NFL, probably.
Well, that's the other exciting thing about this industry too. You just never know what's around the corner, and I look forward to whatever the future might hold professionally. But it's been a great ride so far, and I have very few regrets, other than maybe being a little bit more balanced and finding a little more time for my family. But beyond that, it's been appreciative of what they've allowed me to do, and and so many good people to work with along the way too, on staffs and teammates that, when you think of all the people you've really had a chance to work with, the best of the best, and time will tell what the future will hold.
Hey, it all started with you walking in and asking for a job, right?
That's right. Literally packing everything in the Honda Accord and driving from DC to Miami.
Well, you and Larry Culpepper won't be taking a Honda Accord to Tampa.
I can't wait to see Larry again at Tampa. It'll be a great activation. Tampa's going to be a good CFP championship game. It's going to be a nice downtown atmosphere, championship festival, and it's heck, it'll be our first outdoor CFP national championship game. So we're going to always have something new to work with and be challenged by. So it's going to be a nice weekend down in Tampa. There's no question about it. And having a chance to work with the Peach Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl for the semifinals for this year is going to be exciting as well. They're awfully excited. The Peach Bowl's never had a chance to have that, and they're fired up about it. So, and then obviously we're fresh off a good week in Arizona, so the Fiesta Bowl people were very helpful in that endeavor as well. So it'll be a great playoff once again.
Well, it's an awesome property, awesome property. Many years in the making, and I think anybody that's been in the football business or played it or been around it for a long time, it was well overdue. And the great thing is you guys hit it out of the park, and so congratulations. I know, probably started off with a little rental, office down there in Dallas and looking at each other like, what do we get ourselves into, to what you guys have turned it into. It's incredible. So.
Well, it's been a dream of many and the work of many, but we're excited about where we started and look forward to its evolution.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for your time and sharing your story with all the people that will be listening to this, and certainly college students and young professionals, and know that sometimes it just takes intelligence, hard work, and being nice, and perseverance, and everything that, and high level of character and everything that you stand for, Michael. So congratulations again, and thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Thank you, Rob. My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you in Tampa.
All right. Appreciate it very much.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.